So Square's latest project, Forspoken, is beginning to gear up. It is being developed by Luminous Productions, and now we know a little bit and we have lots and lots to go through. If this is the first time you've actually come across Forspoken, basically a while ago Square announced an unnamed project and showcased a very interesting cinematic with a big dragon and lots of magic. We now know that title is officially confirmed to be Forspoken, and it's all about Frey Holland, who is a New Yorker who gets transported into the magical world of Athea. Frey, who is played by Ella Balinska, wakes up with a magical cuff around her arm, and she soon finds out that this cuff is no ordinary cuff, as it is sentient and gives her access to a whole range of different magic abilities. And the cuff is voiced by Jonathan Cake, and the two of them form kind of a witty-esque banter kind of relationship. Now, we do know some basic premises of the story. Eventually the world is taken over by this evil corruption. Frey is unaffected by said corruption, and she wants to find out basically what's going on. This corruption essentially turns animals into big old monsters and has divided the land into 4 different realms, and at the center of it is basically ran by an evil chaotic bunch of sorceresses. In true heroic fashion, you end up helping the last citizens of Tantus and go about finding the source of the corruption, aka the break. And it's from here that you get into the meat of the gameplay, and that's what we're here to talk about today, because we have a brand new trailer to go through. So the way I would summarize the game is if Harry Potter had a baby with dying light and you ended up with a magical parkour, fast-paced action RPG style game. You can see from all the gameplay, everything is fast, fluid, and just all about traversing big, open, beautiful worlds. Now, if you're worried this is just a parkour game, you can breathe a sigh of relief, because there are so many spells it is almost worthy of a Doom arsenal. So it's been confirmed that these spells are customizable. What I have noticed that they do seem to be primarily focused around 3 elements so far, being earth, fire and lightning. But that being said, there are a few I haven't been able to recognize, so maybe there are more. The other thing I've noticed is that all these abilities seem to be AoE based, and so I'm presuming that you're going to be fighting large packs of monsters at a time, and fairly regularly at that as well. There are big singular monsters. I've seen huge dragons, I've seen giant bosses, but yeah, there are, for the most part, they've been showcasing all the big AoE abilities. So the ones that I've spotted so far, there's like a lightning AoE hula hoop of death that's got a fairly short range that she can cast around herself. There's also the ability to fire ice shards as well. If you've ever played a frost mage, I'd imagine that's what ice lance would look like in a high definition world. There are melee-esque abilities as well. There's a fire sword that gets showcased quite a bit, and it also entails some AoE abilities. She's got the ability to grab her fire sword, jump up into the air and dive down and burn everything around her. Additionally to the parkour, there's also some cool ice boarding that you can do. It's an ability that summons an ice board underneath you and you kind of skate along the ice. It's a bit like a buddy board or a wave board, I would take a guess at saying. There was also an earth ability. Now, a lot of these abilities look like they have kind of the same sort of overlapping style as a Final Fantasy game, because if you've ever seen Earth 2, for example, from Final Fantasy 7, this is exactly what it looked like. It was like a big lump of earth shard that spawned out of the air and did damage to multiple enemies. There are also some water abilities that I noticed. You could summon like a torrent of like liquid out of the ground as like a geyser and do damage to enemies around it. And there was also an earth style machine gun where you kind of like summoned little pebbles and you fire them off like individually at the target you want to fire at. Not all the spells are about damage as well. There was a stealth ability that kind of showcased some of the more sneaky action in the game. And one of my personal favourite was a lightning style kind of dive. So you jumped up into the air, summoned lightning, and then did huge damage around you. Now I'm guessing because of the overlap in the kind of like AoE abilities, etc., I'm guessing that each of the elements has a different kind of effect on the enemy. Maybe one does more damage, more stun, like maybe a status effect here and there. Because for the most part, they were very similar in style and kind of were achieving the same thing. And that's pretty much it for the abilities that I have seen so far. In terms of world building though, it really did kind of give you an idea of what's going on in the game. It felt very medieval in its way, kind of like ancient castles and sorceresses and, you know, like that peasant-esque culture and everything kind of run down and a bit grimy and just, didn't feel like it was the, pinnacle of new technology. That being said, some of the costumes looked absolutely awesome. Some of the characters look really interesting. There's a crazy lady who I can only describe looks like a Queen Victoria who's slightly slimmer and 10 times more crazy. And they also showcase some of the costumes, and they just look beautiful with big vibrant colours and really different and just quite unique. They also showcased one of the first bosses, I'm presuming. It was a giant dragon that was made out of the corruption, and it was firing like tentacles and giant beams at you. And there was a lot of AoE, and you had to like parkour around and dodge all of its damage coming at you, and looked like it was a lot of fun. It again highlighted the scale of this game as well, because this dragon was absolutely huge. It felt like it was like the size of a small town. It is set to release next year, and I'm interested to see what new features they are going to give us before it finally does come out. There hasn't been kind of like any detailed on kind of how you customize your character and what your abilities do into relation of gameplay, so there's still lots that we can look forward to. Personally, I'm really looking forward to it. I am being quite critical of this, however. It is a Square title. They are known for being very expensive, and I always feel that if you're going to spend that much money, then you want quality that is associated with the price tag. Either way, let me know what you think. Are you excited for this? Are you going to give it a go? Let me know in the comments, but for now, have a great week everyone, and I'll be back with more news soon.